So in October of 2017, I decided that I was going to take my first ever motorcycle road trip. I had been riding for about 15 years, but I had never taken a trip before. In fact, doing a cross-country trip, that was like the ultimate thing for me as a kid. And so now it was finally time to take some action on that dream. I didn't know what I was doing. I had never taken a trip before on a motorcycle. I didn't know what to pack. And so I reached out to my Uncle Ruben, who's been riding motorcycles for as long as I can remember. I was really ecstatic when he said that he would come with me. He was 76 years old at the time. And I didn't know it then, but my first motorcycle trip would end up being his last motorcycle trip. Now, in retrospect, it feels almost like he was passing the baton. Anyways, after, going to get some bungee cords, we got on our motorcycles and hopped on the 101 North. Not really knowing where we were going to stay or what we were going to do, but just looking for adventure. We stopped in Santa Barbara to grab a quick bite to eat, and then we hopped back on the bikes, decided to try and make it to Pismo Beach before the campgrounds would close. When we got to Pismo Beach, the campground was pretty much full. Fortunately, after talking to the park ranger, she said that she thought that there was a couple that had left. And sure enough, we were lucky enough to snag the last campsite. We set up camp, and I realized that I made a pretty big mistake. I had forgotten the rain cover on my tent. It wasn't a really big deal on this first night. Back in Los Angeles, it was about 90 degrees, so I figured, it can't be that much colder here. I was wrong about that, but it wasn't cold enough to where it was inconvenient, so I wasn't worried about it. We rode into town to grab a bite to eat and just to walk around and make some images. And it was at this point that I experienced something that I would go on to experience on almost every trip that I've taken since. And that is a sense of being really small in the universe. And I started to question what the significance of my life could possibly be. These were existential questions that didn't bring about a good feeling. All I wanted to do at this point was to go back to the campsite, go to sleep, to maybe get some reprieve from the thoughts and the questions that I was having. In the morning, we woke up, went to go grab breakfast and then came back. We packed up all of our stuff and we got on the road in the direction of Morro Bay. The ride from Pismo Beach to Morro Bay was phenomenal. This was my first time being on a moto trip, so it was also my first time documenting a moto trip. I thought that because I had a lot of experience at this point, I thought, oh, this will be a breeze. My images are gonna look like images from National Geographic. Man, I was really wrong. The images that I shot or that I made were horrible. At least that was my opinion back then. Now that time has passed, I really value these images. And I'm really grateful that I made these images. They take me back to an experience that continues to be special to me. Right around 4:30, we got a campsite in San Simeon. It was really clear right from the beginning that this campsite was going to be completely different than the campsite at Pismo Beach. For one, it was humongous, but also the terrain was a lot rougher. In fact, the stakes that I had for my tent were not the right stakes, and so I ended up having to kind of do a little scavenger hunt to look for like a rock or a piece of wood to try and hammer those down. It was also a lot colder, and it wasn't even sundown yet, and so I knew that the evening was going to be a little rough. Once we set up camp, I thought that this would be a great opportunity to photograph my uncle. We rode across the way to some viewpoint, and I made a couple of images leaving the campsite as well as at the viewpoint across PCH there. Grateful that we stopped and that we made an effort to make these images. These are my favorite images from the entire trip. After taking a couple of pictures, we went over to Hertz Castle, hung out there for a little bit, and then rode up to Ragged Point to have dinner. This stretch of the road was just beautiful. The footage doesn't even come close to doing it justice. We got to Ragged Point right at sundown, and we grabbed dinner there at the restaurant. When we got out, it was nighttime already, and it was really, really cold.
We made it to Ragged Point, ran out of batteries, so couldn't record sooner, but we're leaving now. Got about 15 miles to go. Full moon out tonight.
And it was at this point that it actually hit me, like literally it hit me in the face and all over, how unprepared I was for this trip. I had a light, like flannel jacket coat thing, But it was nowhere near enough for the cold I was about to experience. So we get on our motorcycles and we decided to try to outrun the cold. We get back to the campsite, and this is where I paid the price for not having a rain cover. I did not take a sleeping bag on this trip. I took this huge, really thick blanket with me. It wasn't enough. In addition to that, the ground was really hard. I didn't have like any type of mat. And because we were by the ocean, it was really foggy at night, which meant that water and moisture was making its way into the tent. I didn't sleep very much that night. And when I woke up in the morning, the entire inside of the tent, the blanket, and myself, everything was completely soaked. I checked my email, and I had gotten an email from work basically saying that I had to be back to work one day before what I had originally planned on, which meant that the trip was over. We packed up our stuff and headed back in the direction of Los Angeles.
The campsite is all packed up and the bikes are loaded. We're all ready to go and start heading back to LA.
The footage that you're seeing now is the last footage that I have from this trip. When I got back home, I made one draft up to this point, like a video where I just kind of laid everything, just a basic rough draft. About a year later, the hard drive where I had all of the footage from this trip crashed. And I lost all of the images, I lost all of the footage, except for that one draft. So anyways, we left San Simeon, and even though I don't have video footage from the ride back, I do have a couple of images that I had on another hard drive. On the way back, we stopped at this pier that is off the 101. We also stopped at a rest stop a little farther down. And then the last images from this trip I made when we passed Santa Barbara. We were on the 101, and I decided to throw on a 24mm lens from a film camera that I like to shoot with a lot. And I put that on there, which basically gave me like a 35mm full frame equivalent. I set that to f8. I don't know, I think I set it to like 4 or 5 meters. And I just made some images of my uncle while I was riding. All in all, I'm so grateful that these images survived. I'm so grateful that this video footage survived. Even if at that time, I was not even close to being proud of the image quality or the video quality. That trip was the first of many more trips. It was the end of an era and the beginning of another era. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully I'm able to show you that photography, at least for me, it doesn't have to be about views and likes or even getting paid a ton of money for it. If it just serves as a time capsule for amazing memories and experiences, that alone, I think, is worth picking up a camera and taking it with you wherever you go. I hope you guys are well. I wish you guys a great morning, afternoon, or evening, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.